And welcome back to the Nature of Being podcast. I'm your host, Katie,
And I'm Mimi.
and today is episode 2, and we will be talking about attachment.
Let's
I'll let Mimi take this one off.
just say it's been um a journey to get here. To
It
get
has
to
been. But
talking.
we're here and we're excited.
We are here and we're excited. Okay, so talking about attachment, which is my favorite topic, and also the hardest for me to talk about apparently, but we're gonna talk about it. So playing off of last week's episode, we talked about how if you don't have expectations, you can't be disappointed. And we're going to talk about that further and kind of pivot it into being about attachment, which is what that is about. Not placing attachment on the outcome of events, and instead putting yourself there, trying to try new things, be where you're at, and release the need to know how things will end instead. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll start with um, talking about the harm of attachment and kind of going into what we believe is truly why we think that attachment can cause a lot, if not all of our suffering. So a big thing for me has always been that as I come to recognize what attachment is and kind of how it can be harmful to me, I find that all attachment that we have and the need to be attached to something and the want to grasp something so tightly comes from actually a fear of lacking something else. And the harder you hold on to whatever it is you're holding on to, whether that be a significant other or a friend or an idea of yourself that you've created in your head or a belief system, whatever it is, the reason you're holding on to that and attaching to that so much is because you're terrified of what would happen if you didn't. You're terrified that if you didn't hold on to that person as tightly as you can, that they're just going to fall from you. But the harder you hold on to things, the easier they are to slip away. And I think that that's what we need to come to recognize is how attachment actually causes you to lose things faster because you find that you're lacking in a lot of places because you're attaching yourself to whatever idea of yourself and what other people and the world are. You just are always attaching to something that truly doesn't even exist.
I was thinking when you were saying that, I was thinking about how a lot of us think that we know what like the truth is about what it means to be alive, um, who we are, like just life in general. And like, I think if you asked, like, if someone was like, this is how the world is, and then you said, what if it wasn't that way? And like what certain people's responses would be. And I think the more attached you are to how you think things are, the more probably defensive you would get if someone posed that question with you of like, well, what if it wasn't? You'd be like, well, it is. What do you mean? And like, you just
Mm-hmm.
feel your freaking blood pressure rise, which I'm sure we've all been in that situation before. Versus someone who's living very unattached. And they, like kind of like how we talk about life and we talk about whatever, all the things that we talk about, that life isn't about becoming, it's about being. And someone came to us and they said, well, what if that's not? But what if I think life is about becoming. I don't think it's about being at all. And we'd say, well, that's interesting. We should talk about that. You know what I mean? Versus
Mm-hmm.
feeling that defensiveness and that anger and that, oh my God. And that's because we're so attached to how we think and what we think about everything and ourselves. And I think that that can be a really big downfall of attachment is like thinking the world is a certain way, feeling
Mm-hmm.
that resistance to other ideas and conversations and deconstruction, like analysis of what you think about the world. Um, and then your whole world crumbling around you when you realize that maybe it isn't that way. So like everything that you thought about everything is just like the rug is ripped from underneath you because you were so attached to something that maybe isn't actually that way.
Hmm. And I feel as though by releasing the attachment and need to be, especially I feel as though we build up a character in our own head of who we are and who we perceive ourselves to be to the rest of the world. But how I see myself is differently than how you see me, and differently than how my roommate sees me, and differently than how my mom sees me. Every single person in your life sees you differently than you see yourself, yet you've attached yourself to all of these beliefs and all of these ideas and all of these personality traits that you think, if this isn't, if I don't do this, then I'm not me. But that's so not true, because you are you, whether you are this moment all the time, whether you want it to be or not. And that's not circumstantial on if you're living in that box that you had put yourself in, that you had attached yourself to. It doesn't matter if I see myself as easygoing and fun and happy. If all of a sudden I'm sad one day, that doesn't mean I'm any less me. It just means that I am a different version of me than I was yesterday. And I think that's where attachment can get dangerous, because everything can change in the blink of an eye. Your entire life can change in the blink of an eye. So the more you attach to an idea or even an outcome, you're automatically hindering yourself from from being open to all of the possibilities that actually could happen, because you're so attached to what you want to happen or what you want to be.
Yeah. For sure. I feel like that you're really good at talking about this. The things that society and like the world tells you you should be and do to be happy, like the very conventional way. Um, I don't think we often like ask ourselves if we actually want that. And we become very attached to the idea that like this is what's going to make me happy and this is what I should do. I think we talked about this in the first episode.
Yes, we
You
did.
find
Hmm.
yourself 20 years down the road and you're like, why am I miserable? Because you were
Hmm.
attached to this idea of what you thought you should be. Like, okay, if
Hmm.
I like make a lot of money and I find a husband and I have a few kids and we travel to Florida once a year for a family vacation, that's like I made it, and that's like this level of wealth and happiness that I think that I should aspire to have, but you're still not happy. It's because you never thought about it. You were attached to this idea of what you thought happiness would look like.
Hmm.
Instead of in looking inside of yourself and thinking, okay, well, I didn't even want any of those things. I never thought.
Yeah.
And even those desires are constructed. A lot of it is like,
Hmm. And
and
you think about it, and this is something that I've always gotten a lot of pushback from when I bring that topic up to my friends about, well, is especially with it when it comes to money, because I've never been a money driven person. I understand that we live in a capitalistic country, and that regardless of my beliefs or not, I have to make money to make a living. I understand that. But never once have I tied my worth or my happiness to a dollar amount. And I know a lot of people that are the complete opposite. And they will sit and tell me that this is going to make them happy. And going back to what you said about being defensive, I will bring it up to them. Well, what if that isn't what's going to make you happy? And then they get so defensive. Like, of course it's going to make me happy. Like, what else could make me happy? Money is end all be all of everything. If you have money, you can buy anything. It's like, well, yes, you can buy, again, more things that you're attached to, like the expensive cars. You're attached to the idea that having an expensive car makes you cooler or
mhm.
makes you look more successful. Or you're attached to the idea that owning a really big home and, like you said, having being married, having kids, going on that one family vacation a year, you're attached to the idea that that is life. Like that is the epitome of the perfect life. And so when I bring it up to a lot of people, and I love to question people about this, because it just people hate it. And I just love making people think. in a way that other people don't. And so I'll bring it up to them and kind of like, okay, well, like, okay, you make X, Y, and Z amount of money. What are you going to do with it? Okay. You're going to buy that house. Okay. What is that house going to bring you? Oh, well, it's going to allow me to have a big family. Okay. You have this big family. And you keep digging into them, digging into them. And then they get to the end of the road and never once did they say that they were happy. It was always, oh, well, it'll be this big house. It'll
Mhm.
be my family. It'll be my vacation to Florida. And it's none of it's about them. None of them, it's about like them being happy with themselves. None of it's about, oh, well, I feel like I'm a better person if I do that. I feel like I can it it comes down to the chasing of you're so attached to what you think money and status can bring you that you are terrified of what would happen if you didn't have that status and money.
Mhm.
And so people hate to think about that. People hate to think about what it would be like to not have that because society tells you that that is what you chase. You chase that and everything else will fall into place. And so we've attached to that idea and because of that we're attached to the outcome of every event. Like, okay, I get a job interview. So let's go all the way back to when we were in high school. 90% of at least the people in my high school, what you did is you went to college. After you went to college, you got a corporate job. After you got your corporate job, then you went on and did all the other things we talked about before. And there wasn't really any question of what do you want? That's just what people did. And that's what people were so attached to the outcome. Okay, well, I graduate high school and I have to get good grades to get into a good college. And then in college, I can't have too much fun because again, I have to get good grades and I have to get into the X, Y, and Z internship so I can make it to this company. So then by 26, I can make this much money. And by 30, I can own this. You're always attached to the outcome of everything you do.
And it's like this
And then
next step thing. It's like this is gonna get me here, which is gonna get me here, which is gonna get me here. Like, and you keep climbing
Mhm.
this like ladder of um I don't think there's an end to that ladder until you
No,
realize that the only
until you
way
stop climbing it.
stop climbing the ladder and then you'll
Yeah.
actually be happy. I think it's funny too because um a lot of like I think I mentioned earlier, a lot of our desires are constructed, right? So like,
Mhm.
we have this idea of like you should get married and have a kid by like 30 and then like this is the way you should do it. So then we think that's how we should do it. But we never thought like why would the world want us to do it that way? Like we
Mhm.
never think that like maybe it's not to benefit us and it's probably to benefit capitalism and everybody but us,
Mhm.
like why else
Yeah.
why else would there be a push for that? Because
Yeah.
I because clearly it's not benefiting us. If you look at rates of all of those conventional things, like they're not good. Like the percentages
No.
of happiness are really not good. And like the stats are very telling, but yet we still keep trying to do these damn like conventional things that like generations have done in the past. It's
Yes.
like
Because
all the evidence is there not to do it.
yeah. Well, and even when I'll talk to my mom who's looking at retiring soon and just she just keeps thinking like, why am I doing this? Why am I still working to do what? To what? Have a couple more dollars in my retirement fund, to versus my mom's over there thinking, I want to go travel. I want to go live the years of my life that I have left. And it's so cool to see that shift in my mom's like perspective because it's so different like growing up. Like she came from a family that needed to work really hard to get where they were and she did so well for our family and she was able to provide for our family very well, but it was again just this that's what you did. There wasn't an option. And now we're starting to get to and I think it's our generation a lot. We're questioning that. We're questioning, well, why aren't there other options? why is this the end all be all only thing we can do is work until we're literally dead? Like,
It's funny if you ask a boomer if you say that to a boomer, you can see how attached they are to that idea because they get so defensive.
mhm.
Like,
They're like,
I've
well,
had
how are you
boomers
gonna
say
provide?
that. Yeah, they're like, all you have to do is work hard. What do you mean? Like, get married, have kids. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Why are
I
you trying to do other things? Like, whoa, 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 like back up.
yeah, they get so
You can't
mad.
go off the beaten path. Like,
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. And like, it's got to be exhausting being so attached to certain things in your life that like you can't even have a conversation about it. It's like
mhm.
the whole problem with our divisive politics in the US is like we have people being like, this is what it means to be left, this is what it means to be right. And literally fuck you if you're the other way. Like, because people can't
Yeah.
talk about it because they're so attached to like, no, this is right and this is wrong. It's like, I think if we could logically release our attachment to these bogus parties, we would see that the truth lies somewhere in between.
Yes.
But
I'm
how can
so glad you brought up politics for that reason because that is one of the conversations that by far, are one of the most taboo things you can talk about. But it's so true. Like all politics is attaching to the idea that if you belong to one party, you have to believe every single ideal
people
that
think?
that party believes in. And it's if you differ, if you happen to have beliefs in both, exiled. Nope, you can't have beliefs in both. You are either left or you are either right. And that blows my mind.
But
I
it's an
mean, I think of what?
like think about how powerful the people would be if that didn't exist. Like, I think it's
Mhm.
very calculated in creating a two-party system
Yes,
because
I believe that it's a way of control.
the more we are divided, the less we can come together and like make actual change and like see each
Mhm.
other as all one, like as one people or whatever. Like one,
Yes, we're one being that's all we're all here for the same reason.
yeah.
We all want joy, we all want we're all and I think that that's my biggest issue with politics is how much it just splits an entire population of people for really no reason. Why do we have to why do we have to be so attached to an idea that if anyone questions that idea, we have to hate them and
Yeah.
we have to think less of them? The amount of people that I have had a political conversation with that have then the minute they hear one thing that is differs from their opinion, I can you can drastically tell that they
They're
just
like,
start to think little, yep,
fuck
like,
you.
I don't believe like, "Oh, you believe in that? Shit, well, everything you say from now on is just goes right over that."
Yeah.
They check out of the conversation because they immediately have lost respect for you because they believe that all respect comes from how they think.
Yeah.
And it has they don't want you to question that. They don't want you to question how they think because they've never thought about the other way. So to them, that is the only way of thinking. And I think that that is slowing us down as a society so much. And it's so hard to have conversations with some people when they just won't they don't want to have the conversation. They
And
really
it's
don't.
like
They
not even logical. Like
no.
you could ask somebody like, I don't know if I want to like give examples necessarily, but like, oh, you believe in the choice for this? That's awesome. What about the choice for this? And they're like, well, not that. Like, I
Yeah.
only believe it when it like aligns with exactly what my political party is telling me,
Yeah.
which is so polarizing, which is like it's like literal brainwashing.
Oh,
It's
100%.
brainwashed everybody to be so attached to their like beliefs. And it's like, but beliefs aren't the truth. Beliefs are
No.
concepts.
Yep. And your concepts can change day in and day out. And if you didn't hold on, if you stopped holding on so tightly to the things that you believe and the things, whether that be of the world or of yourself or of other people, if you just stopped holding on so tightly to them and just allowed them to just be what they are in every moment, you would feel more free as yourself because you are no longer putting yourself in a box. And I think that's another thing that our society loves to do is just box ourselves, box us up, box other people up, box groups of people up. We like to just put people because then it's easier to people will say deal with people if they're in a box because they don't. Oh, okay, you don't believe this, perfect, then you're in that box of someone I'm never going to talk to again
Mhm.
because you differed beliefs from me, and then right there you're closing your mind and your opportunity to learn so much if you were just willing to have a conversation. And I'm not saying everyone go out and have a conversation and change your opinion on everything. I'm not saying you have to do that, but be willing to have the conversation and be willing to question those things that you are attached to and understand that you don't need to be attached to them. There
No.
can be another way of thinking, but
Mhm.
allow yourself to ask those questions and learn new things and not be so it is this way and that is it.
Yeah, totally. I think it would be an interesting world if people were able to like I think we talked about that like check in with yourself and ask yourself why.
Mhm.
Talked about that last episode.
Yep, we did.
Why am I thinking this way or why do I think I need this type of thing? That's what we're talking about. But like with attachment, when you feel like I guess defensiveness is the easiest way to understand when you're in a place of attachment that is like no longer healthy.
Mhm.
Like that feeling of like I don't know, like you just want to like post up with them for like opposing you and then asking yourself why you like think you need to hold that up. And like what
Mhm.
are you holding it up for? Like you're holding this belief on a pedestal and it could take one sentence for it to come crashing down and your whole world would crash down with it because you were just so invested in this thing. Um, but instead, if there were like no pedestals and you're able to just sit there and look around and be like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting point. Let's talk about this. Like, let's like find common ground with things. And
Mhm.
I just think everything would be so different,
Oh my
obviously.
gosh, yes. And I think it would so much of the world would come together and be more of a community and realize how much more alike we all are if we just listened to what other people had to say, listened to other people's opinions. Because again, every opinion you have and all the attachment that you build up, it's all based on the life that you've lived before this. It's all based on either something you've heard or something you've lived through or something someone's told you that that's the way you're supposed to believe. But that's the beauty of meeting other people that didn't have that same background growing up is they allow you to look at something a way that you've never had the opportunity to.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so cool to get to meet someone new that has a different way of thinking than you, that can make you question all the things that you've believed your entire life.
Yeah. It's so
And I
interesting.
think they'll go for it.
I was just going to say, I think it's so interesting that we live in a world that doesn't push us to pursue critical thinking.
Yeah.
Um, like how weird is that? Like they'd rather like the world would rather see us like stay in our boxes and like defend our little boxes and be divided than sit there and question the boxes that we've put ourselves in.
And I think that that comes from the idea that division comes control.
Yeah.
And the more divided we are, the easier we are to control because say you have a house full of 100 people and they all are willing to work together, always willing to work together, always willing to change their ideas to kind of go with whatever they think is going to work versus you have a house of 100 people that are very set in their ways, very attached to what they believe, and you give them both a project that could say save the world. Who do you think's going to accomplish it? It's not going to be the 100 people that can't even have a conversation with each other.
No.
It's going to be the 100 people that are willing to talk about it and put their own beliefs aside to understand that there might be a better way, because maybe they don't know everything. And that's the thing, we don't know everything. And taking a step back and recognizing that there are things that obviously everyone knows, like certain people know more about. Like you're going to know so much more about coaching people and training people than I am. But I'm going to know more about selling a house and what goes into that process than you are.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of meeting new people, is like I can learn so much from you and you can learn so much from me. But if either of us were closed-minded, so closed-minded that we weren't willing to learn or question, then we would both just forever sit in the little knowledge that we do have and just think that that's it. And that's not. There's so much more out there. But if you attach yourself to the idea that like I cannot be me if I do not fit into these boxes, then I'm not me. It's like, well then no, you're not allowing yourself to grow and be you in every moment, because every moment that fits outside that box, you stop and you're like, "Oh, I can't do that. That wouldn't be me." And then you miss out on opportunities all the time.
You know what I'm thinking about? Sometimes like I don't always like respond directly to what you're saying. I just
Oh, that's totally fine.
think of something else. And then I
Best
think
part about
we
conversation.
eventually loop back is like
Mhm.
the idea of you. Like,
Yes.
what are you? And it's funny because I hate this. And I like you meet somebody and you're like, what do you do? Or like you type out a bio for yourself, which like we kind of did for our Instagram and everything, which is hard
Mhm.
because I was thinking about this when I was doing it, but I was also like you want to get to know people and like what that all means, but like you're not the things that you think you are. Like you're not like the fact that I have a dog, that's that's not me. Or the fact that I don't know, have a beige pillow next to me, like those like tangible, like physical things, like they're not
Yeah.
you, they're just things that are around you, but we use them to like describe ourselves and we become attached to those things that put us in the box that we're talking about.
Mhm.
And it's
It's funny
weird.
that you brought that up,
It's just like
because I
weird.
was it is. And I was thinking about that exact same thing, like when you were like, "Okay, Katie, we need to write a bio." I hate doing stuff like that. Or I just started a new job and it was like, "Okay, you need
Mhm.
to do an elevator pitch." And I'm so bad at that because I try really hard to not attach myself to much and not attach myself to ideals of like who I am. And so when writing that bio, I was like, okay, how broad can I make this? Or even in my elevator pitch, how I will say the job that I am employed with currently, and the rest of it make it very vague, very much like doesn't need to be in a specific direction. And then I'm listening to other people's elevator pitches and it's like their 5-year plan of in 5 years I plan on being, and I just so far from, I don't even think about those things.
I don't even want to think about it.
No. I don't even know what I'm gonna make for dinner after this, let
Right.
alone what company and job title I'm gonna have in the next 5 years.
Also, think about how fucking limiting that is.
Yes.
Like that is so limiting to be like, this is what's gonna happen, and then I'm gonna do that, and then in 5 years I'm gonna be here, in 10 years I'm gonna be here. It's like, okay, or you could be in a million other places. And like the fun
Mhm.
part is that you get to see what happens. But like you
Yes.
pigeonhole yourself into what you think the right move is and you're like, okay, to me, I think what I've realized about my own like thought processes is that if I think too far in the future, to me it's already happened.
Yeah. Oh, I like that a lot.
Like to me, I'm like, well, fuck, I've already like lived that experience now. But if I don't know what's gonna happen, I haven't like lived it yet. I mean,
Hmm.
it's basically like living in the future or living like now and just like waiting to see what's going to
Yeah.
happen. Um, so I stopped doing that because I was like, I want to be surprised and I want to like see organically where life is going to take me versus like being so methodical about it. Because then I feel like I've already
Hmm.
experienced it. Because I
Oh,
have, and
absolutely.
I've already experienced it. And then you like you could get there and it wouldn't even feel the same. Like it wouldn't feel like this, like, wow,
No.
look where I am now. It would be like, yeah, I've been working for this for 20 years and now I'm here and like
And
for
what?
for what?
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I think that that comes from why a lot of people don't give themselves the opportunity to try new things or put themselves out there or be spontaneous. I am very much a person that if I want to do something in that moment, I try to not think, oh, well, like, okay, well, if I do this, like, what's going to happen next? No, 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 no. You want to do it, do it. Don't worry about what's going to happen next because right now all that matters is that you want to do it. So say it comes to like putting yourself out there with somebody. You want to meet someone new. You move to a new place, you want to meet new people or really any type of like putting yourself out there. If you're going into putting yourself out there is like, okay, well, if I put myself out there and they don't respond like this, then like I'm going to be really sad. Okay, well, I don't really want to be really sad, so I'm just not going to do it. Right there, that's a missed opportunity because what if it happened? What if something amazing happened out of that?
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you can always put yourself out there and it doesn't turn out like a magic, it doesn't turn out to be the next greatest thing that happens in your life. But what if it does? And you will never know if you don't try. So you need to stop attaching yourself to the idea of what's going to happen and stop attaching yourself to outcomes. Stop thinking, well, if I do this, then that's going to happen and I don't want that to happen. It's like, okay, well, that's one of a million things that could happen,
Mhm.
like a million other things that could happen too. And that could be the greatest thing you could have done for yourself. And you just missed out on it because you were terrified of the one in a million outcome that could have happened. So you stopped living your life because of that.
And it almost never happens. The
No,
thing that you're worried.
almost. And then, yeah, the shitty things do happen sometimes, but that's also just like the luck of the draw, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes it just be like that. But
They
usually it's
do.
not like that. Like usually it ends up a different way than you thought it would and like sends you in a cool different new direction or it's better than you thought. Like it surprises you
Mhm.
in best way versus exploding
And
in
also,
space.
not only it's you in doing that, you get to surprise yourself. You get the opportunity to surprise yourself of, "Oh, I was capable of doing that." I said, "F that fear that I'm feeling right now.
Mhm.
Like, I'm just gonna do it anyway. I don't care what happens because right now, right here, right now, that's what I wanna do." And in doing that, you're just opening so much more opportunity for growth within yourself. And you get to surprise yourself and you get to realize again that you don't fit into that little box that you put yourself in when you were 10 years old, when you decided what you were going to do for the next 30 years. You get to surprise yourself. And again, who's going to, I think I mentioned this in the first episode, maybe not, but you're never going to watch a movie if you already know the ending. Like, or maybe you do because you know it's a really good movie, but if you don't go to a theater to watch a brand new movie because you already know what's gonna happen. You do
Yeah.
it because it's new and it's fun and it's exciting and it looks interesting. Think of that as like every moment of life. You don't need to know how it's gonna end, but you need to go out and at least try.
See what the end could be.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe it'll suck. Maybe it's the greatest movie you've ever seen.
So now we're
Okay.
going to actually pivot a little bit and talk about attachment to emotions. So the emotions that we feel and how our attachment to them can hinder us. And Katie's really good at talking about this. So how do you feel like how do you see that show up in your life with attachment to emotions?
So I've very much been a person that is perceived to others as being very happy very outgoing. I'm very good at smiling and very good at just being upbeat at all times, and I think that a lot of that, and I don't even recognize it as much until other people point it out, and I think that a lot of that comes from I don't attach to an emotion. So, like, if I feel sad or I say something horrible happens to me, it's the emotion in that moment, and I'm upset or I'm heartbroken or I'm sad for that moment, but I don't attach myself to that. I don't think of myself as then a sad person. I don't think of myself as having a horrible life. I don't allow that emotion to be a part of my personality. And I think by doing that, it allows me to move on from things a lot quicker and allows me to feel that emotion and then just allow the next moment to be whatever it's going to be, whether that emotion sticks around for a while or whether it kind of just fades because I felt it. I didn't attach to it. I didn't think, well, okay, like I'm something shitty happened to me and so now I'm going to be sad for the grieving period, whatever that is, like you get attached to needing to know why you're feeling that emotion and needing an answer to like what's going to happen next. And I think that I've always been very good at not doing that. If I feel like I need to cry, I'm going to just cry. And sometimes I have no idea why I'm upset. And I think that's also and sometimes I'm not even upset. It's just like an emotion. But because I haven't attached crying to sadness ever in my life, I think that that's why sometimes, like, if I just feel overwhelmed, I start crying. The other day, I was so overwhelmed. I wasn't sad in any way, but I started crying. And I didn't think anything of it. I just was like, "Oh, wow, that just happened. Oh, moving on. That was nice," And I didn't think like, "Okay, that's gonna ruin my whole week." I felt overwhelmed, so now I'm an overwhelmed person that can never get anything done. Like, I didn't attach myself to what that meant, and I didn't fight it either. I didn't wanna change it. It was just what it was, and I think that that has allowed me to be lighter, and that I think is why I seem to other people always happy and always outgoing and always just, like, giddy because I don't attach myself to the idea of what, every little emotion I feel, like, what it means. It's not that deep. They're not.
I think people
Um,
think that they are their thoughts and they are their emotions,
mhm,
versus like clouds passing by in the sky. That's like your emotions and your thoughts. And there's millions of them every single day. And we think that because, I felt sad a lot today. So like I am sad. I am sad. It's
mhm.
like you are not sad. You experienced some sadness, you know?
Yes.
And that's how we move through them and forward past them is by feeling through them and not attaching ourselves to them. Otherwise, that would be a really crappy identifier, like
Mhm,
the really bad mental health days, if that was us, that would be a really sad reality for everybody because everybody like has those days. Um,
mhm.
instead of, I don't know, I just don't think a lot of people think about it that way, which is why I'm glad that you brought it up and are so good at talking about it.
Yeah.
'Cause you
And
just
it was
want
something that
those.
you had said to me too, kinda what you're saying about, like, being your emotions and being pla being victim to your circumstance or, like, what is going through. So when you had brought it up, anxiety, like, when you feel anxiety, instead of thinking, "Well, I am an anxious person, and that is the end all be all, like, there is no other option. That's just who I am." It's like, no, you're feeling anxiety, but that's not who you are.
Yeah.
And I think detaching from that and having it be a personality trait that you don't need to attach to that as being truth all the time. And I think by not attaching to that, you won't think about it as much. And the less you think about how anxious you are, the less anxious you will become. But if you're constantly thinking about I am anxious, you're automatically going to find that anxiety more often because you're always thinking about it.
Yeah. it's like those identifiers that we become so attached to that limit us. I know we said this earlier in some capacity, but like, I don't know, you're not those things. And I wish I had a better way to explain how you're not those things, but so many of us think we are them. And I
Hmm.
think that I don't think we can like see very clearly because of that. Or
Yeah.
like, I don't know where I'm going with this now, but
I think kind of what you were saying about how we're not those things is a good way to explain that is recognizing that you are the limitless potential to be anything and everything in every moment. So don't attach to the label of I am this because no, you are the potential to be anything. You are not just that.
we
You are
limit
anything you want
ourselves.
to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we
limit
really do limit ourselves.
Anytime we say we're something, we limit ourselves from being anything else.
Mhm.
More than that, whatever that
Yeah.
means.
And so I think with that, I want to challenge everyone who has gotten thus far. First off, thank you so much for getting this far in our episode.
And making it
But I want to challenge everyone to really detach from something in your life or as many things, preferably as many things as you possibly can. But recognizing that when you feel as though you are getting defensive about something, use that as a reflection of, okay, I'm being defensive because I'm attached. And what am I attached to? Why am I attached to that? And how can I let go of that? And in letting go of that, how can I grow? How can I learn something new? How can I see a different perspective? And doing that every single time you start to feel that, I think by doing that, people would start to recognize how much more they're attached to than they really think that they are.
because it's so much. And I think
So much.
the key ones that we've outlined are the idea of yourself, your emotions, and your beliefs. Is that pretty much the three
Yes.
that we hit?
And the idea of how you think other people see you.
Yeah.
Not just how you see yourself, but how other people see you because they're not the same.
Yeah, totally. And
And I think
those are all
go
like
for it.
just limiters in your life. Like they're
Mhm.
limiting you from being anything you want in any moment at any time, like to grow and experience and be more than you ever thought you could be, like
Mhm.
your attachment is so limiting. And it's so weird because I feel like growing up, I was like, like I want to be attached to people and have all these great relationships and I want to be all these things that I think I should be. But it's like, I never realized until like the last year how much I wouldn't be able to be if I remained attached to what I thought I should be.
Mhm.
And even if it's not like defensiveness, just resistance in general. Like you feel any kind of
Yeah.
resistance to things, like check in with yourself because it's so crazy. I brought this example up to Katie earlier when we were talking about like how I brought up astrology like years ago and someone was like, that's dumb. I don't like that. And I remember getting so mad. Like I felt like my like blood pressure was just rising and I was just like, and like I didn't say anything back, but I remember like texting a friend later being like, so annoying that like someone would like make fun of that. Like it's just like I don't know, being all defensive. And then I remember months later I thought, why do you need to why do you need to uphold that? Like who is that
Mhm.
helping? Like is that helping you? No. Is it helping them? Is it helping the world? Like no, it's not. Attaching to things doesn't help yourself or the world. Like it just limits you.
Yeah.
Because
And
why
it
don't
limits your ability to connect to other people.
Yeah, I
And I
couldn't
think that that's the biggest thing that I have tried of why I have tried to release attachment because it allows me to meet people and meet myself at a completely different viewpoint and a different depth than if I were to hold on to all of the things that I was attached to in
yeah.
lives before this.
Totally.
So, with that, honestly, I feel like we've
That's
touched
a lot.
very briefly on attachment. I know that there's a lot of topics that we've have some more to say, but I think a lot of those deserve an entirely
Yeah,
their entirely own episode. So, for now, I think that that's
I
where
think that's good.
we'll leave it.
So homework is to check in when you feel resistance, notice what you're attached to, and think, why am I holding on to this? And then tell us.
And
I want to
yeah.
hear.
Yeah, we would love to hear if there are things that you've noticed that you're attached to and you start to release them. We'd love to hear about that
Hell
because
yeah.
I mean, we're all going through it together.
Yeah.
So,
I
we're
mean,
always
we're all
here to talk
still
to you guys.
attached to a lot of things ourselves. Like it's normal to do that, but it's more
Oh,
beneficial
absolutely.
not to.
Yes.
So yeah, do that. And then socials, you can follow YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. YouTube is the video version of this. Um, TikTok and Instagram is more little insights and stuff. Those are all at Nature Being Pod. And tell your friends, let us know what you think about the episode. And if you
Yeah,
want
we'd
to,
love to hear things you wanna talk anything you guys
yeah,
want us to talk about,
any ideas
let
you
us
guys
know.
have. If you want to follow like our personal accounts, I am what, Mimi_Styles.
And I am, the letters KT Mariro. So not my full name, but just K and T.
K and T.
So follow along with us, and we're just getting started here. So
Started.
we can't wait to continue to have this conversation, and we're so excited for everybody that's here with us, having the conversation with us.
Hell yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you so much, and I hope everybody has the most fabulous weekend.
Hell yeah. All right. We'll see you for episode 3 next month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
next
Once a
month.
month. Every second Sunday of the month.
Hey, one of these days, maybe we'll be doing them every other week.
Yes. We'll see. We might be ramping it up soon here. All right.
Yeah, we will. Thanks for
Bye.
joining us, guys. Bye.